Hello everybody, I am back for another stream, another week, this time something educational. So let me just stop this music. So yeah, as the title says and the description says, we're going to be looking into OkCupid's 2014 study on race and attractiveness. And this is actually, research for a video that I plan on doing pretty soon. I don't know when it's going to come out. Just preliminary research for it. I thought it'd be fun to do a nice little investigative, informational, educational stream about this study in particular. So a little bit of background on it. Let me just pull it up. And there we, oh, that's not it. Hold on. There it is. So, this study, I don't need these headphones anymore. Put that there. This study was done by OkCupid themselves. I'm not sure if this is still the case. I would assume so. But apparently OkCupid conducts a lot of their own research on their website about dating and things related to dating. And this study was conducted from 2009 to 2014. Conducted by a man called Christian Rudder. So this is his Twitter account. This is on archive.org, and this is what was listed on the site, if you click the link. He's still on Twitter, but his account is private. He's one of the founders. He's a co-founder of OkCupid, and he used to conduct studies on the site. He doesn't anymore. That's what his updated Twitter profile says, but that's not really important. So, this study, like I said, came out 2014. Around this time, I was in, I want to say the 10th grade. It was in high school. I was likely in the 10th grade, and I was, September 10th, so I was 15 at the time when the study came out. I remember it was posted on Reddit. I can't remember which subreddit. If I had to guess, I'd say r/science or something like that, since it's, a scientific study. And I read the study and looked at all the data, and I thought, man, that's kind of depressing for reasons that I will get into. So I'm going to read this whole thing. It's not really too long. There's lots of chunks of data and some graphs and stuff. But we're just going to go into it, and I'm going to do that. That should make it easier to read a little bit. Yeah, that's good. Alright, so race and attraction, 2009 to 2014. So we looked at race in one of our very first posts, because this is on their blog, the OkCupid blog. And today I'd like to revisit the topic with fresh data. This article folds in millions of person-to-person interactions, what one human being thinks of another. As such, it's different from a look at, say, unemployment numbers or test scores. So much data on race gives you people versus the system. OkCupid's gives you people versus people. Basically, the site's 10-year history, at the time, has been one long episode of Judge Judy. Here's the verdict on race. So, way back in 2009, 5 years ago, as of 2014, the basics of race and attraction on OkCupid look like this. Men. Non-black men applied a penalty to black women, while black men showed little racial preference either way. Okay? So, for women, all women preferred men of their own race, but they otherwise penalized both Asian and black men, which is why my thumbnail for the stream looks the way that it does. So, this is the graph for that. This is the entire, breakdown. On this, axis, I don't know the scientific terms, I'm sorry, but on this axis, for men rating women, this is each race of woman and each race of man and how they saw them. So Asian men seem to prefer Asian women and very much not like black women and kind of sort of not like Latino women, and have a positive but not as strong as Asian women to white women. So black men have a pretty, I would say, consistent rating with Asian and Latino women, but they have the same level of, non-attractedness to, I'm not a scientist, guys, to black and white women, which is interesting. Because, I don't know. Never mind. I'm not going to insert my comments. I'm just going to go over this for now. So, Latino men have a preference for white women, and more of a preference for Asian women than they do for Latino women, which is, I find that interesting. This is in 2009, by the way. I should point that out. And they have a negative 22% preference for black women, which is the most out of this graph. And so white men, 6% for Asian women, 10% for white women, 2% for Latino women, negative 18 for black women, which is a lot. And this is women rating men. Asian women seem to prefer white men over Asian men, but the attraction levels are still pretty high. Big dislike for black and Latino men. And then black women have a very low rating for Asian men, interestingly. A high rating for black men, a kind of low rating for Latino men, and for some reason, a kind of neutral rating for white men, which is, I find that interesting. And then, let's see, Latino women, negative 16 Asian men, negative 4 black men, 11% on Latino men, and 10% for white men. And then, of course, there's white men. Negative 12 for Asian men, negative 6 for black men, 1% Latino men, and 17% for white men. So that's the basic breakdown of preference in 2009 from their findings. So, the values in these tables are preference versus the average. Think of them as how people weigh race in deciding attraction. So, for example, in the bottom right corner of the lower table, you see that white women think white men are 17% more attractive than the average guy. Which is weird, because what is average supposed to be? I'm not entirely sure. Move one square to the left and you see that I think Latinos are 1% above average and so on. So I guess, okay. Alright. See, the color is there to make big trends easy to see. So, has anything changed? In some ways, no. OkCupid users are certainly no more open-minded than they used to be, as of 2014. If anything, racial bias has intensified a bit. Here are the numbers for 2009 till now. Use a slider and move through time like a JavaScript DeLorean. So, the real unfortunate thing about this is that this slider just straight up does not work. I went into incognito mode to try to see if it would work, but it doesn't. I don't know why this is broken. I wish it wasn't, but it is. I'm supposed to be able to slide, and I'm not, and that's unfortunate. So yeah. But, going off of this section here, I'm assuming these numbers in the red have gone up in some way. So, these numbers reflect different people year to year. Together, the charts fold in data from some 25 million accounts. One interesting thing is to compare what you see above with what those same users have told us about their racial attitudes. Answers to match questions have been getting significantly less bias over time. So, this is the year 2008, 2014. And this is the percent answering yes to each of these questions. First one, do you strongly prefer to date someone of your own race? In 2008, doesn't give the exact figure, but I'm going to say it's like 43%, just ballpark, said yes, that they did prefer to date someone of their own race. But as of 2014, that number went down to 33%. Again, it's hard to tell because the lines and the axes and all of that. So, would you date someone with a vocal racial bias? In 2008, I would say 29 or 28% of users said yes. And then this one's kind of weird because it goes down around 2013, end of 2013. Or no, I'd say like exactly 2013. And then 2014, okay, so in 2013, it was at about, I would say 10%. And then the next year, it goes up to I don't know, like 18%, which is a pretty sharp increase over a year, and I'm not sure what caused that. I think they might go into it later in the article, but we're gonna see. So, for the question, is interracial marriage a bad idea? In 2008, it was at about 8%, and then it went down pretty drastically from 2009 to 2010 to, I would guess, 3%, and it's been pretty consistent since then, and has had a slight increase in 2014 to what I would guess is 4%. Again, hard to tell. And it says here, and yet the underlying behavior stayed the same. You can use other online data to see the split personality play out elsewhere. The night Obama was first elected, so I guess around 2008, was a moment of catharsis. It really felt like something had changed about the way America perceived and thought about race, and for at least that brief moment, the nation appeared united. Of course, we all know, if you've been alive from 2008 to, well, now, that didn't really last. So, anyways, this is 2014. At this time, Obama was still in office, because the election wasn't until 2016, yeah. Well, let's see. No less than Karl Rove captured the moment well. An African-American candidate who was aspirational and inspirational is very powerful. It's a night for our country to celebrate, and for the world to celebrate. Meanwhile, that same evening, American Google searches for the N-word hit an all-time high. And this data was apparently gathered from Seth Stevens Davidowitz, who's a researcher at Google, which I find interesting, because why would you Google search the N-word? You know, that just doesn't quite make sense to me. Like, that's an odd search to make, you know? But anyways, moving on. Anyhow, whenever I talk about this data or the other race data in my book, Dataclysm, a few questions always seem to come up, so I figured I'd just answer them head on here. Question: are the people on OkCupid just racist? No. I mean, not more than anywhere else. All the dating data I've seen fits OkCupid's pattern. Black people and Asian people get short shrift. Black people and Asian men get short shrift. For example, below are the numbers from Date Hookup, a site that we acquired a few years ago, but that still operates independently. Let me see if Date Hookup is still a thing, because I've never heard of this. Date Hookup. Why are my bookmarks showing? Okay, here we go. Yeah, it's still a thing, apparently. Sure. It exists, still. Alright. So that's that on that. Alright, so for example, below are the numbers from Date Hookup, a site that we acquired a few years ago. Date Hookup has a distinct user base, a distinct user acquisition model, a distinct interface, and yet their data reflects the same biases. And so this is from 2014. I'm going to assume, based on these comments, that this 2014 data kind of reflects the OkCupid 2014 data. And you can see that for men rating women, black women, even for black men, have a very low rating, below the average, with white men very much not liking black women, but favoring Asian women over white women, which is interesting. For, let's see, women rating men, here they say that Asian women rating Asian men, they didn't have any insufficient data, so they don't have a number for it. I would like to know how that was reflected, but for the most part, for most demographic groups, black men are not favored, except for by black women. Even though black men do not prefer black women still prefer black men. Let's see, Latino women don't like Asian men, white women don't like Asian men, and we don't know how Asian women feel about Asian men, but I can't say either way how that will be reflected, because I really don't know. Alright, so while OkCupid is large enough that its demographics reflect the general internet-using public, Date Hookup is a niche site particularly popular with Latinos and blacks. Those groups comprise 13 and 20% of the site respectively. Other sites in our portfolio with still different demographics and business models show the same attraction patterns. So I should also point out at this point that OkCupid and a bunch of other dating sites and services are all owned by one company. I think it's the company that owns Match.com. Basically, most dating sites are owned by one company, which, again, very interesting. So, another question. Is it possible that some small number of users is throwing off the averages? These biases are pervasive in the data I've seen, the writer. For example, 82% of non-black men on OkCupid show some bias against black women, and similarly, it's not outliers among the women driving the results. It's a wholesale phenomenon. The ratings for an entire population are shifted down. So this is a full picture on the scores women receive on OkCupid. So let's see. I'm not quite sure how to interpret this graph. Let's see. So on this, I guess, axis is the average score in quick match, which is 1 to 5 stars. Not really sure what that is. Well, here's that graph. You can look at it and interpret it as you may. Alright, so are you saying that because I prefer to date whatever race, I'm a racist? No. An individual can't really control what turns them on, and almost everyone has a type one way or another. However, I think the trend, the fact that race is a sexual factor for so many individuals, and in such a consistent way, raises deeper questions, see below. Question. All this data is from a dating site. What does that have to do with my life? There are many situations that might not be explicitly romantic, but are nonetheless a lot like a first date. A job interview, trying to rent an apartment, when you meet your freshman roommates. Oh god, wow, yeah, I can feel that one. Anytime you're trying to make an impression on a stranger. And science has long known that bonuses accrue to beautiful people. They have better outcomes at work and school, more success with juries, even live longer lives, and so on. And this is what people are calling pretty privilege these days. In short, beautiful people, quote unquote, receive a lot of the same built-in benefits in our society that white people do. I think that's no coincidence. Beauty is a cultural idea as much as a physical one, and the standard is of course set by the dominant culture. I believe that's what you see in the data here. One interesting thing about OkCupid's interface is that we allow people to select more than one race, so you can look at people who have combined white with another racial description. Adding whiteness always helps in your rating. In fact, it goes a long way towards undoing bias against you. So this means that if you are perceived as mixed race and being mixed with white, you are perceived in a more positive light. Which, when I was looking for articles before I started streaming earlier today, I did see quite a few articles about mixed race people being seen as more beautiful just in general, which I think is interesting, but I'm not surprised by that fact, just given my experiences. I'm not a mixed race person, I should point that out, just in case you thought I was. I'm not. However, a lot of people when I was growing up in like middle and high school thought I was, and I feel like that meant that I was treated differently in a positive way by certain people and in a negative way by other people, even though that wasn't the case at all. And when I explained that to people, they were like, oh, okay, well, never mind then, you know. So here are the average ratings for people by the race or races they selected. So Asian, 2.43, Asian white, 2.74, which is a 13% increase. Black, 2.13, black and white, 2.41, a 14% increase. Latino, 2.49, and Latino and white, 2.46, a 6% increase. So yes, this is all just dating data, but it shows who and what we define as beautiful, and that's something that affects everyone, and that's the end of the book. And then there's an ad for this book. Where is this? I don't know what this is about. Yeah, it's just a book about data, I guess. So that's the 2014 OkCupid study that sparked my interest and has been living rent-free in my head since then, because, as is reflected by this study, at the very least on OkCupid.com, if you are a black woman, then, which, I am, then you have not the best chances when it comes to finding a partner. Because as you see here, black women have negatives all across the board. Whereas every subset of man has a positive, usually for their own race, but that's not true for black women. And even Asian men and black men, who are, the two least desirable races of man, according to the study, still have positive ratings with women of their own race. And I don't quite know why that is. So, I have this other article here. It's from SciPost. This is more like a news article. This is the one that I was talking about. A study. Men and women view I can't talk tonight, I'm sorry. View mixed race male faces as more attractive than white faces. I'm assuming that means white faces in general. Alright. So as a study in the Journal of Psychology has found evidence that faces of mixed race phenotypes, which, by the way, if you don't know what that means, it means just like physical characteristics. There's phenotype and there's genotype. Genotype is like genetic characteristics, and phenotype is physical. I learned that in the 8th grade. Yes. Or did I? Yeah, I did. 8th grade biology. That's where I learned that. So, the multiracial population has increased over the past several years, and especially so in the United States. Given this, as well as the melting pot nature of our current society with many different people living side by side, we are exposed to a multitude of faces on a daily basis, said Alina V. Stepanova, an assistant professor at the University of Southern Mississippi, and the study's corresponding author. But what makes one's face attractive? People are always interested in what makes one attractive. We know from previous work that physical attractiveness has positive consequences for life outcomes, blah blah blah. Basically pretty privilege again. Thus, we wanted to discern what facial features drive people's perceptions of attractiveness in which faces, white, black, or mixed. I see they're leaving out other races here, only centering on white people, black people, and interracial people who are presumably both black and white. So, yeah. We're leaving out a good subset of the population. Let's see. The 2-part study compared combinations of Afrocentric features and Eurocentric features. In their first experiment, researchers had 85 undergraduate students rate the attractiveness of 6 computer-generated faces that varied in racial features and skin tone. For their second experiment, the researchers had another 321 undergraduate students again rate computer-generated faces. This time, however, Stepanova and her colleagues created a set of 100 faces that had finer gradations of skin tone and facial physiognomy. This word, I can't. Physiognomy. I don't know. It's difficult, okay? In both the experiments, participants rated mixed-race faces with medium skin tone as the most attractive. Both men and women find faces of mixed-race men as the most attractive, followed by black faces, then white faces. However, when we talk about mixed-race faces that have an even mixture of both Afrocentric and Eurocentric facial features, shape of the nose, lips, etc., and B, skin tone that is not too light and not too dark, are perceived as the most attractive. And now this idea just popped into my head when I read this. So, our favorite, what do you call them? Reality show clan, the Kardashians. They are quite known for blackfishing, as it's called, wearing braids and getting lip injections and things like that. And I think the popularity of the overall beauty of the Kardashians is kind of reflected in this study. because even though they are all white as snow, they, I guess to a more uninformed person, can read as ethnically ambiguous because, they have popularized the big lips type of thing, which is, natural on a black person, and more curvy features, which are stereotypically attributed to black and Latino women, and of course wearing braids like black and Latino women wear braids. So, they're taking all of those positive features of those people, but they're not darkening their skin too much, because if you're too dark, that's not good, as is reflected in this study and in just real life in general, if we're being honest. So that's interesting. Anecdotally, I can believe this. So people are attracted most to the faces that are an even mixture of black and white phenotypes, again, physical characteristics. The study also found no evidence that the attractiveness ratings were moderated by the ethnicity of the participants. The research, however, has some important caveats. Human facial attractiveness is very multifaceted, Stepanova remarked. We only use male faces. Now that's interesting. They only use male faces in the study, not female faces. So I would like to see if this is reflected in female faces as well. I'm going to just, my unscientific opinion, I'm going to assume that it is, just going off of what I see on the internet every single day of my life. So I'm going to assume this data carries over. So let's see. We also use computer-generated faces for better control of skin tone and facial feature manipulations, and the next step would be to conduct this work with actual photographs. What about older and younger faces, i.e. the faces of kids and older adults? So, this is from 2018. It's fairly recent. I'm assuming, I don't know what they mean by computer-generated. Let me go here. It doesn't have any images. Let me pop this into Sci-Hub real quick. So Sci-Hub, which I use from time to time, it's basically a service that can unlock research papers for you, which I think is pretty dope. I think science should be for the people, and this tool makes it so that it's for the people, and that's a good thing. So, as you can see, we got the entire study here for free. It's 21 pages. I'm just gonna go through it to see if there are any images. Oh, there are some images, okay. So this is the level of computer generated that we're working with. I don't know if you can see that. Hold on. There, this is what they mean by computer generated. So, Unity characters basically. Alright, well, that's all I wanted to see for that. So that's that. And here's another one I found. Attractiveness as a function of skin tone and facial features, evidence from categorization studies. I don't know why I chose this. Oh, wait. No, this is just that study. That's literally the study that I just saw. Okay. Not entirely sure why I chose this one either. But let's see. Previous research. When is this from? 2011. So this one's kind of old. Previous research has suggested that perceived attractiveness and personality are affected by the race, such that white faces are more attractive but less masculine than black faces. Such studies, however, have been based on very small stimulus sets. The current study investigated perceived attractiveness and personality for 600 black, white, and mixed race faces. Many of the investigated personality traits were correlated with race. When rated by white participants, attractiveness specifically was greater for black male faces than white male faces, and among mixed race faces. That's interesting. The computer generated faces are giving me Big Sims vibes, yeah. A reverse pattern was found for female faces, with whiteness being associated with attractiveness. The results are discussed in terms of the sexual dimorphism demonstrated in skin color. So, I'm not going to go too far into that study, but that brought up another interesting thing. If you see a lot of these, basically any movie or television show where a black family is portrayed, the dad will usually be dark-skinned and the mom will usually be light-skinned. Like, a lot of people have noticed this, and a lot of people have pointed out that this is like a weird thing. I think it's weird too, even though I am what some people would consider a high yellow broad. But I still think that's kind of odd. Again, what is the name of that movie? There is a movie with Rashida Jones was in it, and she was portraying a black person. And now, if you don't know what Rashida Jones looks like, this is she, you know, this is Miss Rashida Jones. On first glance, you would not consider her to be a black or even a mixed race person, but this is her father, Quincy Jones. He is very clearly black, and fairly certain her mother was white, if I'm not mistaken. Like, her mom's probably not black, is what I'm saying. But there's a lot of backlash over Rashida Jones being cast to play a black woman role. I don't know if the character was specifically black, but I can't for the life of me remember this movie. Let me go to her IMDb, because I can't. She went to Harvard? Oh my god. We love a smart queen. What? That's not it. When did this come out? It was recent. Is it? It's not. It wasn't. Is it this? No, it wasn't a TV series. But anyways, it's not really important. What is important is that Rashida Jones, who, with all intents and purposes, is a black person, according to, the United States government. I mean, I'm fairly certain the one drop rule is still like a thing. She is black, so, but she doesn't look black. Or even really mixed race. Classically mixed race. So people are getting angry that she was playing a character who was intended to be black. And, it's I thought it was a little weird, I'm not gonna lie. But so yeah. I will say that I think, I believe this study. That's what I'm trying to say. I believe this study. I believe that, people will find a light-skinned woman more attractive than a dark-skinned woman. I mean, I don't even have to read a study to know that. Just growing up, going to school and stuff, all the light-skinned girls, they were always, even if they were only just, average-looking, they were still favored over the dark-skinned girls. And bonus points if you look mixed, or were mixed. I had a friend in high school who was part black, white, and Filipino. So, of course she had the good hair and everything like that. And, she was quite popular with the boys, I will say. So, I can believe this study. But I think what I'm trying to get to the bottom is on a social level instead of, a psychological level or a scientific level, why is this the case? Why do men, prefer lighter-skinned women over darker-skinned women? And I think that might be too big of a question for me to ask. Because if we're going off of purely skin tone and not race, I mean, this is reflected in basically every non-white, culture. Black, Hispanic, Latino, Asian. All of you're expected to be light-skinned. And there's always, these products going around. These wacky products that you can... And usually it's, they come from Africa, too, which is interesting. But there's a bunch of these products that you can use to, bleach your skin. Which, by the way, not good for you. Don't do that at all. I think I ended up accidentally, using a skin bleaching product when I was, in the 10th... Not in the 10th grade. I was in high school. I can't remember when. But I bought this stuff to, I think I bought it to, clear up my acne scars or something like that. And it smelled so bad. It smelled really bad. And I put it, on my face and cheeks and stuff. And I was impatient, so I, stopped using it. But I'm fairly certain. And I bought it in, a Walmart, so that's kind of weird. But yeah. Bottom line, women are expected to be light-skinned, while men aren't really. Hey, this popped up in my recommendation. What's this about? And basically, so earlier in this stream, I went over this OkCupid's study from 2014. Just read it, gave my thoughts on it, and I want to see what's the goal of this. Is that I want to see if this study on race and attraction is, let's see, does it like reflect in current time. And while I was looking up studies for this stream, I realized that science takes a long time to do. So there weren't a whole lot of studies, like peer-reviewed scientific studies, not just like articles, on the subject recently. Some of the more recent stuff is from 2018, but that's about as recent as I was able to get it for that specifically. So that's what we're doing tonight. And I wanted to know, I would guess yes, but I want to know if this is reflected in non-heterosexual couples. So, because this was, this was heterosexual. We had men rating women and women rating men, but not men rating men or women rating women. So, that's what I want to look up. I'm not quite sure how to format my query. Let me go here so I don't show my new tab page, because that's a so what should I look up here? Okay, race and attractiveness in LGBT communities. Yeah, take it from someone who hand washes most stuff. Bleach should be nowhere near your skin. Okay. Here's something. It's from 2018. Let me go here. So, this is from, what is this from? U.S. National Library of Medicine, National Institutes of Health. Okay, that's weird. So I looked up race and attractiveness in LGBT communities, and this is the second. No, this isn't the second. This is like, yes, it is. This is the second result. Very few people say no whites, gay men of color, and the racial politics of desire. So, okay, this looks to be like the entire thing. I'm not gonna read all of this. I hope there's like an abstract or something. So, I don't think there's an abstract. So just going off of like, I don't know, assumption, I'm gonna say the data here is gonna be reflected similarly here, but it also does say, very few people say no whites, but I don't know. Let's see, according to Adam Isaiah Green, modern urban life is increasingly characterized by specialized erotic worlds designated for sexual partnership and sexual sociality. So, okay, this isn't related to this, but it's something that popped in my head. Another site that does a lot of research into their users is Pornhub, because honestly, I think it's good that they're doing that. This is the kind of science that we need in the world, what, makes people tick. I'm going to say tick to avoid being crass, but it seems like time and again, one of the most popular like straight porn categories is ebony. So what's weird about that, okay, let me go back to this, is that in dating, in like relationships, not strictly sexual things, black women are not preferred by anybody. But in porn, and I guess like sexual situations, black women are very popular. And why is that? I'm putting it out there. I'm not trying to answer the question. Like, I'm gonna let it marinate in your mind for a moment. Why are black women preferred in sexual situations aside from romantic situations? It's a good question. Let's see. Even benzoyl peroxide, a common skincare ingredient, can bleach and damage your skin if you aren't careful with it. Yeah. I mean, listen, there have been... Who was it? It wasn't Black China. Hold on. Did Black China bleach her skin? B-L-A-C China. Oh, no, she did. She had to have. I think she did. I can't remember. Hold on. Let's see. Did Blac Chyna and bleach her skin? Somebody did it. Yes. Okay, here's this picture that I saw. I remember this. Okay, going back to skin bleach. Apparently Blac Chyna did this whole ad with some skin bleach company where she's like all light, and let's see. Blac Chyna appears to have bleached all remaining melanin from her skin. I don't know when this is from. But, you know, she was originally, like, this color. I would say it's still high yellow, but perceivably tan. This is this is an Instagram filter, so I don't know. This is, I don't know when this is from. They don't really give dates in Google Images, but it's a problem. Really, I thought that white guys dating black women were most accepted and more common than white women dating black men. I mean, maybe. I don't know if that's reflected in any scientific studies. Well, okay, let's look at the data. So you said white guys dating black women more accepted. So this is from 2009. I can't get the 2014 chart to show up, but because this slider is like completely broken, but from what they said, it's worse. So white men on OkCupid. However, that being said, OkCupid has a very large user base, so I would say a pretty large sample size. Rated black women very low, -18%, second lowest aside from Latino men. And let's see, what did you say? White women dating black men. Oh, wait, I get what you're trying to say now. Okay, so I can't really say anything about white men dating black women, but I do know, dating back back to slavery, black men dating white women was seen as a bad thing because of racism. That's only why. That's the only reason why. Because, you know, the black savage is coming to take our pure white woman, basically. You know, there's a scene in the 1915 D.W. Griffith film, Birth of a Nation, where, like, a whole gaggle of black guys who were portrayed by white guys in blackface, in case you didn't know. You could have assumed that, though. Or, like, chasing this woman. I don't know why. Probably with the intent to harm her, because, you know, that's the message they were trying to send. And instead of putting herself in danger with these black men, she, like, jumps off a cliff or something like that. And basically what that entire scene was showing was that, you know, essentially what I just said. The savage black man is coming to take our pure white woman. So that's why, I guess, black men dating white women isn't seen culturally as a good thing. Is there science to back this up? Probably. But I don't know what words to Google to find it. As far as black women dating white men, I'm not too sure about that. You know what? I'm gonna say something. I'm gonna say something. So, I'm a pretty avid peruser of Reddit.com, right? For better or worse. And ever since, I don't know, but just recently, like in the last 3 or more years, there's been a prevalence in, like, Facebook-type posts on Reddit. So, like, people's wedding pictures and pictures of people's babies, and, like, I've never liked that. I have never liked seeing random people's weddings and kids, because, like, I don't know you, I don't care about you. This is for your friends and family, not for Reddit.com. Anyways, there's been, like, a really weird influx of wedding pictures that are highly upvoted, so they make it to the front page, where it's a white man getting married to a black woman. And I usually never see it the other way around. And this is purely anecdotal. I don't quite know why this is happening, but I've noticed it happening. Of the wedding pictures on, I mean, we can go to Reddit, reddit.com/r/let's/pics. I'm sure we'll find some wedding images here. Let's just scroll for a little bit. This is today. I mean, I might not be able to find any right offhand, but this happens more than a few times a week. And it's usually always on r/pics. I can't see where it is. Okay, well, no, let me do top of, oh my god, come on, there we go. Top of the, not all time. We're gonna do top of the past month. How about that? Reddit, prequel memes is where it's at, man. Let's see, 12 years ago, blah, 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 Boeing. Maybe not the past month. I'm not really able to find any. Wednesday Adams cosplay. Here it is. Alright, see, we have, oh god, you can't even see it. Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. But here it is. This is from 12 days ago, right? We have a wedding image of a white man and a black woman, 73,000 points. I'm gonna be nitpicky for one moment. This isn't related to the picture at all, but this like score over here, if you can even see that, these aren't the amount of upvotes. This probably has more upvotes than 73.2 thousand, but you see, when you upvote it, it gets, well, you can't really see because it's too many. When you upvote, it gets one upvote. When you downvote it, it gets one downvote. And what used to happen is that Reddit would show you the number of upvotes and the number of downvotes, but somewhere around 2014, they like changed that for no reason. I don't know, man. I've been on Reddit for entirely too long, but I've been seeing a lot of these kinds of wedding pictures on Reddit a lot. It's usually never the other way around. Also, just in general, white men marrying women of other races. That is found on r/pics a whole lot. Let me see if I can find another one. Let's see here. Grandmother, oldest World War II vet. And Moana cosplay. I'm trying to prove a point here, you know. Threshold. Grandmother. There's also weirdly a lot of pictures of like people and their older relatives when they were their age, and it's like, do you not know how genetics works? Of course you're gonna look something like your relatives when you're their age. Like, that's not impressive at all. I hate it. I hate those posts so much. Anyways, let's see, I'm trying to find another wedding photograph. Nope. Florist. Anyways, I'm not going to spend my time scrolling through Reddit. You get what I mean when I say that. Anywho, let's see. Let's look at more of this. Here's a Wikipedia article about racism in the LGBT community, which is weird. And this is in the United States. Ethnic minority LGBT individuals may find themselves in a double minority in which they are neither fully accepted nor fully understood by mainly white LGBT communities, nor are they fully accepted by their own ethnic group. And this is from Gay Asian Masculinities and Christian Theologies. Okay. Let's see. Many people experience, you can't read this at all. That's better. Where am I? Many people experience racism in the dominant LGBT community in which racial stereotypes merge with gender stereotypes. For example, Asian American LGBT people are often stereotyped by Westerners as more passive and feminine, while African American LGBT people are stereotyped as more aggressive. A number of culturally specific support networks for LGBT people are active in the United States, such as Moi, a support network, it's probably Vietnamese, for Vietnamese American queer females. Do you guys want some ASMR real quick? I have a sody pop here. It's sparkling water, but I haven't opened it. That was probably super loud, because it was loud for me. Why did I spill it? Oh my god. That's just fun. Okay, moving on. We have subsections for basically every race. We're gonna look at anti-black racism. This is getting cut off a bit. Many LGBT black people report experiencing racism from the white LGBT community, leading to some to repudiate labels such as gay and connections to white LGBT culture. That's interesting. The term same gender loving was coined by activist Cleo Manago, who is an African American activist and social architect, to describe people of African descent who are attracted to the same sex, as opposed to terms such as gay, lesbian, bisexual, or queer. This term was meant to actively express pride in one's racial heritage. Okay. Efforts to push gay rights forward alongside the black rights movement brought out opinions on their presence. Quotes by Frank Kameny, who is he's no longer with us, an American gay rights activist, include statements such as, now that it is becoming unfashionable to discriminate against Negroes, discrimination against homosexuals will be on the increase. And no other Negro among the audience, but saw one black person distributing the pamphlets. Okay. Some black gay men report discrimination and harassment from white gay men in gay bars and clubs. In the past, some gay bars would display the sign that said no blacks, femmes, or F slurs and similar phrases. At gay bars? Does that mean something in particular? I'm not quite sure. I don't know, but okay. Some black, gay, South African men have reported experiencing grotesque racism from white gay men during the time of apartheid. Chuck Nip, a white gay male drag performer who is known for his blackface. Who is this? An American-Canadian comedian known for his controversial vocal characterizations heard on the radio. Okay. Known for his blackface act, Shirley Q. Licker has been accused of racism. Well, I mean, it is blackface. Responding to Nip's declaration that the Licker character was created in celebration of, not to downgrade black women, Jasmine Canick, who is an on-air and in-print African-American pop culture, race issues, and politics commentator. She said, it is not possible for Charles Nip, a white man, to help heal years of mistreatment and racism at the hands of his people by putting on a wig, speaking AAVE, and in blackface. When did this happen? 2007. Okay. There is nothing remotely uplifting about Nip's act, and I wish people would stop defending his character with the tired argument that he's trying to heal the nation. The only thing Nip is trying to heal is that hole in his pocket by filling it with all the money he makes off of degrading black people. Drag her. Let's see. Okay, here's something on sexual stereotyping. Some authors, such as Howard Stevenson Jr. and Mary Diane Plummer, have written that much of the racism against LGBT black people is rooted in sexual racism and the linking of sex role stereotypes and racial stereotypes. Black men who express a sexual preference for white men have been alleged to be suffering from an insidious legacy of white racism that causes internalized racism in black men. Excuse me. Some Afrocentric gay men are opposed to interracial relationships, believing gay black men who prefer white men lack strong roots in the black community or are oblivious to racism. I think this statement also translates to heterosexual people because, oh, dude, where did I hear this? Basically, any black female celebrity who has a white significant other. I remember Raven Simone, I think, when she announced she was getting married. She's getting married to a white lady. And people are saying, oh, why is she with a white woman? And all of that garbage. It's all black people saying this, by the way. So yeah, I can believe this. Let's see. The anti-interracial Afrocentrists a mouthful, believe that instead of hating their blackness, gay black men should only date other gay black men. A slogan that promotes black-on-black gay relationships is Black Men Loving Black Men, which was popularized by Joseph F. Beam's anthology In the Life and the Marlon Riggs video Tongues Untied. Now what is this? Oh, never mind. Let's see. He was an American filmmaker, educator, poet, gay rights activist. Okay, that's him. Conversely, okay, Rob Redding's book, The Professor, Witnessing White Power, used empiricism. You know I don't know what that is. What is empiricism? Theory that states knowledge only comes only or primarily from sensory experience. Okay. To surmises? That might be a typo. Anyways, to surmise that sleeping with white men gave some of the most prominent black men of our time, like James Baldwin, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Marvin Gaye, and Richard Pryor, a fearlessness when dealing with racial... Marvin Gaye? Is Marvin Gaye gay? I didn't know that. Hold on. Career, early life, death, personal life. He married Berry Gordy's sister, Hannah Gordy. Why was Marvin Gaye linked in this? I know, I recently found this out. Richard Pryor was indeed, he liked the men. He apparently slept with, what do you call it? Marlon Brando. I don't know if this is hot Marlon Brando or nearing the end of his life Marlon Brando, but still Marlon Brando. What does Afrocentrism mean? Okay, well there's a little blurb here. Afrocentrism is the approach to the study of world history that focuses on the history of people of African descent. It is in some respect a response to global Eurocentrism attitudes about African people and their historical contributions. It seeks to correct what it sees as mistakes, and it cuts off. I think in this context, Afrocentric is like, I don't know what to describe it as other than like Afrocentric, you know. Empiricism means doing research or studies about it. Okay, that is a lot simpler than what I just read. I don't know how to describe Afrocentrism other than as Afrocentrism. Like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I know what it is, but I don't really know how to explain it. But, you know, you see certain types of black people out there who are very Afrocentric. I guess it just means they're more in touch with their African heritage, and I don't know. I really don't know. I can't answer that for you. I guess it's more of like a social, cultural type of thing. To me, anyways. Let's see. Moving on. He utilizes a mix of communication theory like proxemics. Proxemics is a study of the human use of space and the effects that population density has on behavior, communication, and social interaction. Kinesics, which is the interpretation of body motion communication such as facial expressions and gestures, non-verbal behavior related to movement of any part of the body or the body as a whole. Okay? And haptics, which is a branch of nonverbal communication that refers to the way in which people and animals communicate and interact via the sense of touch. Okay, we're getting into deep science now. Along with the analysis of Jane Book's word, not gay, sex between straight white men, as a case study, what is this? The author details the phenomenon of straight men seeking out sex with other straight men despite not identifying as gay, bisexual, or bicurious. What? 2015? Okay. Where am I? As a case study, He states, Ward, who is a lesbian, writes about power exchanges between white men. The professor explores how gay interracial relationships and encounters may have empirically had an impact on the black community. Okay. Let's see. Let's go back to this Google search. This is something from The Guardian in 2014. It says, no Asians, no black people. Why do gay people tolerate blatant racism? Most LGBT ethnic minorities say they face discrimination and bigotry on dating sites is a throwback to the 50s. The LGBT community must address this. Is this long? This is long. Okay. Well, here's a quote from someone. I'm just gonna skip this talk section. Again, none of you can read this. Alright, that's better. Let's see. I'm sexualized for my skin tone and never treated as a person. Saif tells me the community is trained to accept a white, masked, muscled gay man, and the rest of us are not really accepted or one of their own. Okay. It's not the individual he blames, but being conditioned by a community that venerates the sexual image of a white gay man. According to research by FS Magazine, an astonishing 80% of black men, 79% of Asian men, and 75% of South Asian men have experienced racism on the gay scene. So what this tells me is that I'm not making a conclusion currently because I wanna see some. Is this linked to the magazine? I think so. But what this tells me is that why can't I reload? Basically, this is telling me that gay minority men are way more discriminated against than straight minority men. Okay. Which, you know what? I think that tracks because to me it seems that women are more impartial to the race of their partner than men are. So I think that makes sense. I'm making connections here. Also, I have a Word document here. I'm just going to start writing some stuff down because I am doing research for a video. So, our first conclusion that we came to is that black women are the least desirable. Black and Asian men. Okay, black women are least desirable to men. Black and Asian men are the least desirable to women. However, the effect is less. That was a bit, obviously. Let's see. Gay minority men are... What did I just say? Gay minority men are discriminated against more than white minority men on a larger scale. Men in general seem to have a stronger racial preference than women. WOMN. So I want to see. Okay, so far this Wikipedia article and this Guardian article have mostly been men, so like gays. I want to see how this is reflected with women. I mean, they are both depressed, first for being POC and also for being LGBT. But, you know, let's see. What was I going to say? I was going to say something. So here's an entire thing on these topics. Sexual orientation, social attitudes, prejudice, violence, social attitudes. Let's see, we have acephobia, anti-gender movement. What is that? Is an international, whatever, okay. AIDS stigma, biphobia, gay fascism. Okay, heterosexism, homophobia, lesbophobia, non-binary riddle scale, SPLC designated list of hate groups, trans misogyny, transphobia. Oh, that's not quite what I'm looking for. Let's see, sexual positioning and race-based attractiveness by preferences. Is this by gender preference? For social dominance among gay, Asian... Okay, that's really specific. That's not what I'm looking for. Privilege, power, pride, intersectionality. This video explains the racism behind preferences on gay dating apps. Is love colorblind? The economy of race among... What's this? The economy of race among gay and straight daters. Okay, this is... Let me hit up Miss Brenda Sci-Hub once more. See this full thing, because I don't have the patience. Access check. Ugh. Our systems have detected unusual traffic activity from my network. Where's the CAPTCHA? There is no CAPTCHA. Okay. That's fun. Well, this is only a preview. This is literally one page. So the abstract is a drawback to research on interracial couples that it almost exclusively studies heterosexual relationships, which is true. What is this from? What year is this from? 2015. Okay. Let's see. However, compelling new evidence from analysis using the census shows that interracial relationships are significantly more common among the gay population. Now that's interesting, because this says interracial relationships are more common among the gay population. However, a lot of minorities have said that they have experienced some kind of racial discrimination. So how does that track, I wonder? Has there been a similar studies on sapphics? It's interesting on how there's more data on interplay between MLM and racism, and the WLW community probably has the same issues. Yeah, I'm trying to find that, and I'm not quite finding it. I don't know why this is mostly gay male centric, but it seems to be. Meet the white gay men who are racist. Conversation on white supremacy and racism in the queer... I'm assuming that means community? Queer community. What is racism? How does it show up? Okay. Race and attractiveness in... I'll say lesbian. Let's see. This is men. Impact of... Okay, here we go. I see something. The impact of perceived discrimination on the intimate relationships of black lesbians. Okay, this could be something. Abstract. This paper explores the effects of the perceived racial/ethnic and sexual orientation discrimination on African American lesbians' relationships with friends, lovers, family, and community support systems. So more than just like dating and sex. Data for this exploratory study were gathered from a series of semi-structured ethnographic interviews with self-identified black lesbians. Research suggested that those who had been in relationships with white lesbians reported more frequent experiences of discrimination that influenced their later decision to seek a black lesbian partner. I mean, that doesn't really surprise me. I mean, you can see that in heterosexual relationships. So, let's see. Later decision to seek a black lesbian partner for their next love relationship. Reactions toward lesbian community events range from avoidance to determined participation in response to feelings of alienation and racism. Also, you guys can't even see this. I'm so sorry. Also, black lesbians perceive the African American community to be conservative in their views on homosexuality, which is true. Nevertheless, for half of the women, their interest in participation in the African American community overshadowed their concerns about the negative reactions to their homosexuality. So basically, they were more concerned about being involved in, the black community as a whole than the discrimination they might face from other black people for being a lesbian. That's interesting. Let's see. Okay, data from this exploratory study isolated questions that need further empirically based exploration in order to understand how race/ethnicity, culture, and sexual orientation influence the development, maintenance, and dissolution of intimate relationships in the lives of African American lesbians. Let's see. While the study of close heterosexual relationships has witnessed tremendous growth over the last decade, researchers have paid less attention to the influence of ethnicity or sexual orientation on the formation of intimate relationships. Let's see. Black lesbians face potential racism, sexism, and homophobia in their encounters with others. For them, perceived discrimination may be a potent factor in shaping their relationship choices. However, little is known about the role of perceived discrimination in close relationship development. When studies of close relationships are conducted, sociocultural factors are often neglected. Yet we do know that the development of any relationship is influenced by the social context in which it is embedded. Typically, however, friendship formation and romantic involvements are explained by personality characteristics or interaction patterns, minimizing the role of social context. This may result in an incomplete explanation of how relationship choices are determined. If African American lesbians expect romantic involvements with Anglo lesbians to subject them to racial discrimination, they may be unlikely to view Anglo women as appropriate relationship partners. Instead, that's interesting, because I've seen a tweet about this on twitter.com. Of course, where else would you see a tweet? But there's a person essentially just kind of lamenting the fact that in media, so like movies and television, if there is a lesbian relationship portrayed, it's usually a black woman and a non-black woman, and not typically two black women, which I find interesting. Also, I guess I should point out, full disclosure, I am a straight person, but I am interested in, how these kinds of things affect people who are different from I am. So I felt like I should point that out. Let's see. So we present here results of extensive interviews with 8 black lesbians, which is a small sample size, I should say. For this kind of study, it's a small sample size. Our goal was to explore the impact of perceived discrimination on their relationship choices. Yeah, I don't know, man. That sample size is really small. I mean, they're extensive interviews, but still only 8 participants. We expected that their comments would reveal complex attitudinal and behavioral responses to the dilemma of coping with 3 discriminatory statuses. Wait a minute. Statuses. I can't read. Oh my god. Why did I think We're gonna pretend that didn't happen. Alright. This is kind of long, and I'm not going to be reading all of it. Here's another one. Okay, this is from OkCupid again. Alright. This is great. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Same-sex data for race versus reply rates. Okay, this is good. Oh, this is the sauce. Alright. Let me have a drink first. Okay. Goodness. I'm sorry, it's sparkling water. As promised, I don't know when this is from. I don't see a date up here. Yeah, I don't know what year this is from. But, we got so much data. Do y'all see this? Oh, here we go. Okay, so this appears to be from 2009, which is quite a long time ago. I don't know if there's anything updated about it. Okay, so let me just go back to the top. As promised, here are the same-sex versions of last week's charts and tables. Now, what is this? Does race affect whether or not people write you back? So not quite this, but related, I think. No, it's definitely related. Okay. In general, they show that straights and gays share many of the same inclinations, but the prejudices of the latter are perhaps a bit less pronounced, so gay people. I should say at the top that some of the sample sizes for various race/gender slices presented here are rather small. For instance, OkCupid doesn't have many lesbians of Indian descent. Again, 2009. And that accounts, I think, for some of the scattershot nature of the color tables. Let's see, I just thought 2009 wasn't that long ago, and I did the math and I realized it was 12 years ago. Yeah, I was in the 5th grade at this point, so kind of a long time ago. Race preferences are not nearly as stark here as they are with the heterosexual data. Okay. So, reply rate by race for gay males. I guess this is a percentage of the time, so like 47 would be 47%. Okay. So, let's see. Oh, this is a lot. Alright. Asian male, right back, Asian males, 47%, oh my goodness, 47% of the time, wow, I've been going for about an hour 30 now, 47% of the time, black men, 43% of the time, 53, no, never mind, that's pretty high, Indian men, 45, 42, Middle Eastern men, 36, and white men, 35, that's interesting, but for Asian men, for whatever reason, I'm not entirely sure why, but it seems like white men have a pretty low reply rate compared to everyone else, which I find interesting, even for like their own demographic. For white men, it's only 44%. I have no idea what these numbers at the side are. Oh, I think they're the average. Okay. Yeah. Alright. So, again, they said the sample size is pretty small, so we're gonna have to take this data kind of with a grain of salt because the sample size might not be big enough to have it be as accurate as it could be. Because from the looks of it, Middle Eastern men are getting replies all of the time, except for by Native American men and white men. So 2009 OkCupid, if you're Middle Eastern, you're getting them replies. Wait, no, I interpreted that way wrong. So, yeah, I interpreted this column entirely wrong. So, my goodness, now I've just confused myself. I think this is the percentage of white men replying to others. Okay. We're gonna move on before I get any more confused. So for women, we have not quite the same. There's a lot less red here, at least. Again, sample size is small, so that's gonna have to be taken into account. So let's see. Still, there are a few conclusions we can draw. So, blacks get fewer responses. We saw this with the straight data too. And here it's true of both gay and lesbian senders. Black gay men get over 20% fewer responses than non-blacks, which is about how straight men fared. Black women, on the other hand, do relatively much better with gays than straights, while they're still the least replied to the group. The discrepancy is much smaller in the lesbian community. So, okay, here we go. So this number on this axis would be the average percentage, presumably. It doesn't say if it's a percent or anything, that they get replies. So, as stated in this chunk down here, black women will get replies 47.2% of the time. And Indian women let's see, what's the highest? It appears to be Indian women. Get replies 62.5% of the time. Again, sample size might be too small to make a meaningful conclusion out of this. I don't know. Okay, so here it says, whites responded by far the least to anyone. Both white lesbians and white gay men write the fewest replies. In fact, across the two charts, whites responded about 15% less than non-whites, and white gay men show a marked preference for other whites. On the other hand, gay white women don't have the segregationist tendencies of their straight counterparts. They just diss everyone. Whereas last week we saw that straight white women strongly preferred other whites to the exclusion of other groups, lesbian whites respond to all 9 racial groups roughly evenly, and in general, the lesbian community seems relatively colorblind. Only Indian lesbians receive a response rate far off the average, and as I said above, the sample size there is limited and the results may be skewed by chance. So, Asian lesbians are in demand and they're picky about other races. It's a really weird way to write a study, but okay. Gay Asian females are responded to the most, and among the well-represented groups, they have the most defined racial preferences. They respond very well to other Asians, whites, Native Americans, and Middle Easterners, but very poorly to the other groups. Latin women also express a clear preference for whites and Asians. Okay. And men prefer Middle Easterners. Gay men and straight men both respond best to Middle Easterners, and the preference is quite dramatic. I'd be interested to hear any theories why this is so. That's really interesting. Why the high response to Middle Easterners? And I should point out again, this is 2009. There were a lot of things going on during this time that you would think that people in general, especially white people in America, would have a less positive response to Middle Easterners, just based off the fact that 9/11 was still a recent memory in many people's minds, and, you know, people were getting sent to Iraq and Afghanistan in droves at that time, so that's really interesting. However, I don't know if this is in the United States. It doesn't say where this data is from. I think it's just from their website in general, and, you know, the internet is international, so it doesn't quite say where in the world these results are being taken from. So never mind, I take that back. You can't really apply the American context to this if it's not based in America, you know? Okay. So, this is like a survey. Is interracial marriage a bad idea? So for the most part, most people are saying no for this. With the most people saying yes being whites, and again, this is gay and bi men and women. Okay. Alright. Let's see. Would you strongly prefer to date someone of your own skin color / racial background? The numbers here are a little bit higher, I will say. And there's a box around this piece of data. Whites say 35% yes for dating someone of your own skin tone, racial background, and 65% no. That gap is a little bit higher in non-whites. Okay. So, to our friends in the gay and lesbian communities, thanks for being patient and waiting for this data. We will do gay-centric articles in the future, I promise. Lately, since we've been dealing with complex and data-intensive subjects like race and reply rates, we've had to restrict ourselves to straight data in the primary post. We felt that adding a discussion of gay and lesbian trends alongside straight ones would triple the length of the already long and dense post, and surely more than triple reader confusion. We will keep looking for ways to present the information you rightly expect. For now, it will be an addenda such as this one. Okay, I'm going to take a look at this study. This is from, Okay, October 5th, 2009 by Christian. Is this that same? Did someone named Christian? Yep, Christian Rudder. I'm assuming it's the same guy who does like all the studies. So welcome back, dorks. Alright, so the title of this is Your Race Affects Whether People Write You Back. So let's see, message sender, message recipient. So this is, I'm going to have to do this as well because, go away. Alright, so, again, 2009, I like to think things have changed since then. So Asian female, if an Asian female sends a message to a black male, they'll get a reply back 55% of the time. If a black male sends a message to an Asian female, they'll get a reply back only 17% of the time. If a black female sends a message to a white male, the reply rate is 32%. If an Indian male sends a message to an Indian female, that's 18%. Wow, that's so low. Native American male to a Native American female, 35%, and a white male to a white female is 29%, strangely enough, which is about in line with what they thought, what it should be. The takeaway here is that although race shouldn't matter in messaging, it does a lot. So let's see, more compatibility means more replies. Also, if you don't know, OkCupid has like this whole system set up where I've never used it before. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if you have to pay for it, but it's an old school dating site. But I think you have to answer like a bunch of questions and you'll get a percentage like match, whether or not you match with a person. Like, okay, if you have a profile and you answer all the questions, if you click on another person's profile, based on how they answer the questions, they'll give you a percentage whether or not you're like a good match. It's not a complicated concept. I don't know why I'm making it one. Zodiac. They even include Zodiac stuff here, which is weird. So, okay, hold on. We can see this. Okay, can I just say, I don't understand the whole, like, Zodiac system when it comes to dating. I don't know. I think in Japan, too, they also, like, take your blood type into account when you're, like, dating people. I don't understand that either, but, okay. So, throughout this post, yellowish colors are shorthand for neutral and red and green strong preference. People of various zodiac signs match each other all at roughly the average rate, and as we would expect, reply to messages similarly. So, basically, Zodiac has no bearing, very little, I'm going to say very little bearing on whether or not you get a reply. I don't know why this was included. This feels like useless data. Okay, so match percentage by race. Well, no. Let's look at reply. So this one's for female sender, this one's for male sender. It looks like, okay, based off of this, women except for, I see this black, you see this one orange, red, and yellow stripe here, that's black women. If you can't read it, I can read it. Women get replies most of the time just for sending things, like race doesn't seem to play into this. But if you're black, you're not really gonna get a reply. Basically, that's what I'm getting here. If you're a black woman, sorry, Miss Thing, no replies for you. And if it's a male, generally they don't get a lot of replies, just in general. But what does that say? Is that black? I don't know what's like out beside it though. I guess, okay, I see what's being reflected here. So, if you're a woman, and if you're a black woman and you send a message, right, chances are you won't get a reply back. But, if you are a man of any race, and you send a black woman a message, chances are you will get a reply back. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, this is match. Oh, well. This is the graphs I just look like. See, I can see it better now. A male sending a message to a female. If they send a message to a black woman, across the board, it seems, they're gonna have a better chance of getting a reply back. Okay, so let's read their breakdown here. It says black women are sweethearts, or just talkative. Okay, but either way, they are by far the most likely to reply to your first message. In many cases, their response rate is 1.5 times the average, and overall black women reply about a quarter more often. White men get more responses. Whatever it is, white males just get more replies for almost every group. We were careful to pre-select our data pool so that physical attractiveness, as measured by our site picture rating utility. Hold on, they have something that rates your pictures for attractiveness? In 2009? Okay. That's interesting. Moving on. Physical attractiveness was roughly even across all the race gender slices. For guys, we did likewise with height. Oh, forgot all about height. White women prefer white men to the exclusion of everyone else, and Asian and Hispanic women prefer them even more exclusively. These 3 types of women only respond to white men. Respond well to white men, okay. More significantly, these groups' reply rates to non-whites is terrible. Asian women write back non-white males at 21.9%, Hispanic women at 22.9%, and white women at 23%. It's here where things get interesting. For white women in particular, if you look at the match by race table before this one, the should look like one, you see that white women have an above average compatibility with almost every group, yet they only reply well to guys who look like them. There's more data on this downwards toward the end of the post. Okay, let's see what happens when it's women writing messages to men. We've already seen this. Pacific Islander females aren't getting any replies from Middle Eastern men, and Indian women aren't getting replies from, I'm not quite sure what other is, I guess just a race not reflected. Okay. I mean, those are really the 2 outliers. In general, we can see on this graph that white men just aren't replying that much to anyone but Middle Eastern women and Pacific Islander women. Okay. And black females aren't getting replies, like, overwhelmingly, other than by Native American men and whatever other is. And I guess Middle Eastern men too, but that's still kind of orange, you know. So, the overwhelming conclusion from this is that men don't write black women back. Or rather, they write them back far less often than they should. Black women reply the most, yet by far get the fewest replies. Essentially every race, including other blacks, singles them out for the cold shoulder, which is reflected in this study from 2009. Here it is. White guys are crappy, but fairly even-handed about it. The average reply rate of non-white males is 48.1%, while white guys is only 40.5%. Basically, they write back about 20% less often. It's ironic that white guys are the worst responders because, as we saw above, they get the most replies. That has apparently made them very self-absorbed. Okay, kind of editorializing here. It's interesting that white males do manage to reply to Middle Eastern women. So there's some kind of emergent fetish there, as Middle Easterners are becoming America's next racial boogeyman. Maybe there's some kind of forbidden fruit thing going on. Perhaps a reader more up-to-date on his or her post-colonial theory can step in here. Just kidding, don't. Alright, so here's interracial marriage graphs. So, is interracial marriage a bad idea? So, let's see. Whites said, well, males, okay. Well, that's still 6% of that. So I'd say that's pretty even between men and women saying interracial marriage is a bad idea. Let's see. White people say it's more of a bad idea than non-white people. Okay. So, would you strongly prefer to date someone of your own skin color, racial background? Oh, what's this? Okay, white females said yes. 54%. That's interesting. Okay. Wow. And they're really an outlier there because, you know, the next highest is white men, and then after that, let's see, 33% for Native American females, and then 24 for Hispanic Latin females, 24 for Asian males. Wow, that's more than half of white women of this sample size of, let's see, what's the total? It doesn't say the total. But I'm going to ballpark and say 300,000. Over half of them said yes. Which is wacky. That's interesting. And so for whites in general, 45% said they would rather date someone with their skin tone or ethnic background, and non-whites, 20%, only 20%, so, you know, not majority. That's crazy. Wow. Okay. It's probably not just OkCupid that's like this. I don't want anyone walking away from this thinking that OkCupid users are exceptionally horrible mofos. It's likely that any dating site, and indeed any collection of people, would exhibit messaging biases similar to what I've written up. According to our internal metrics, at least, OkCupid's users are better educated, younger, and far more progressive than the norm. So I can imagine that many sites would actually have worse race stats. But like I said at the beginning, we'll probably never know. Wow. This random commenter says, Black women are the least likely to marry outside their race. True statement ever written. Asian women the most likely, according to the U.S. Census Bureau as of, 2009. Okay. I'm not reading these comments because this is like early internet tier article comments, but yeah, so my, I guess, conclusion from seeing all of this is that minorities seem to face a lot of discrimination when it comes to romantic and sexual relationships, and this data is carried over into gay and lesbian circles. So I haven't really gotten into non-cisgendered people. I think a lot of these studies are going off of cisgendered people. I mean, even with some of these that focus on the LGBT community, I'm fairly certain it's mostly cis people that are being represented here. So, I mean, I know trans people have their own entire set of problems when it comes to dating. So that's like an entire, different thing. But most of these that I've gone over are mostly cisgendered people. So that's, I think we've covered a lot of ground here, as far as our findings. So I think the direction that I want to go in my video is to posit the question as to why these kinds of things exist, because the science is there. We can see, I guess empirically and anecdotally, we can see that minorities face discrimination in dating. But why is that the case? What stereotypes are there about certain subsets of people that have prevailed and caused this to happen? And I think that's what I want to go into here. I mean, in one of these articles we looked at, it did say that people perceive Asian men as more demure and, what was the word? I can't remember, but like submissive than, say, black men, I guess, which is why they're not favored for gay relationships. But yeah, interesting indeed. And I also must say, just for me personally, I never really used any dating sites. I was like never on Tinder or anything like that. And let's see, when I was in school, college, I'll say, I was, trying to find myself a boyfriend. Clearly never worked out because I'm still single, but yeah. And I think, the location comes into play as well, because I went to college in Mississippi. So that really tells you all I need to tell you. I distinctly remember there being one singular interracial couple, like, on campus, and, like, everybody knew them for some reason. Okay, I should also say I went to a really small school. It was, like, 3,000 people tops, not a whole lot. You could get well acquainted with a large percentage of the students there very easily, so, yeah. But the one interracial couple that I remember from my time in college was a black guy and a white girl. Which, again, it's anecdotal, so probably doesn't reflect the population at large. Yeah. I will say, though, I did try to take some white dudes out on dates. I was never treated poorly. Like, nobody was ever mean to me for, like, no white guy was ever mean to me for trying to ask them out. They were all very nice. Right? And I feel like at that time when I was in school, I was pretty easily able to clock when someone was being low-key racist to me. And, there were times and instances where people were being low-key racist to me in school, but me asking guys on dates, it didn't come up there. I'll say that. So, I'm not really entirely sure what that point was that I was trying to make, but those are just my experiences. So, again, never been on really any dating sites or apps. So, I can't personally confirm or deny the data that we just saw, but I can believe it very easily. So, boy, honestly, it hasn't been that long of a stream, but I have been talking for a really long time. My voice is like, yep, gone. So that's where I'm going to end it for this. I hope this was informative, eye-opening, all of that for you, for the people who are watching. I hope this causes you to ask some questions about yourself and, the people who you've interacted with romantically in the past and how you will feel interacting with people romantically in the future. I don't know if this has changed how I feel about dating, because, I always knew in some way that I kind of got the short end of the stick just in life in general, being number one black and number two a woman, so, like, I didn't know it was, like, this bad, because I'll go back to the Kardashians. For whatever reason, the prevailing beauty standard on Instagram.com, they're very Afrocentric characteristics that typically white people employ to get, likes and stuff. The wider hips and big butts and thighs, butt injections, lip injections, generally just things to make them look racially ambiguous, not quite black or white, but, there's a lot of blackfishing going on. Not even just, overt kind of stuff, I'm not talking about, Rachel Dolezal. That's, an entirely different type of thing, but, people who will go in and Facetune and make themselves a little darker, people who just wear a foundation shade that's just a little sus, looking at you, Miss Nikita Dragon. I think that's interesting. And also, what I find interesting about Nikita Dragon is that she is, oh my goodness, she is part Latina and Asian, which are two cultures that, typically favor fairer skinned people, just like culturally. Because, like I said way in the beginning of the stream, is that for the most part, people prefer to be lighter in skin color, except for white people who prefer to be more tan but not too dark, So it's kind of interesting to me that Nikita Dragon has this like storied history of blackfishing when both of the cultures that she comes from, deems being dark-skinned a bad thing, but the culture that she surrounds herself in, which is like, internet beauty culture, says that being racially ambiguous is a good thing. So is that why she's doing it? Hey, I don't know. I'm dragging on for too long. That's gonna be it for me for the stream. Last week was supposed to be my week off, but we all know what happened. This week I got a cool idea, so I thought I would stream. But this time, for realsies, I'm taking next week off streaming. There won't be a stream next week. There will be a stream the week after next. So, that's that. I'll see y'all later in whatever the next video is. Thank you for joining me for this evening. Goodbye.